In this episode of the podcast, we're talking to Kerri Garbis. Now, Kerri is an actress as well as the CEO and founder of a Boston-based company called Ovation. Ovation teaches and coaches professionals on how to present, how to sell, how to tell stories, essentially everything that you need to be a wonderful public speaker and a great storyteller. Things that are incredibly relevant to running a business of any sort. So I thought it'd be fun to bring Kerri onto the podcast. We're also going to get into some coaching tips when it comes to presenting and public speaking. She's also going to call me out on a few things. Let's dive in. This is the TSS podcast. It's a place for authentic conversations to uncover the stupid, simple truths that help us succeed in business, create better relationships, and lead more fulfilling lives. Welcome to Think Stupid Simple. Kerri, welcome to the podcast. We have a ritual that we begin with a lighting of a candle. This is our ideas candle.
Thank you.
It's really my happy space candle. I like candles.
I love it.
Is there something that you like, just that you have to, I don't know, like for me, it's candles. What is it for you, Kerri?
For my day, for my...
Anything. Yeah. Do you have a ritual?
I don't know. Well, I would say exercise is my daily ritual. It is definitely my therapy. I like to say that I work out for vanity and sanity. And it is, I have to do something. And if it's a walk in the snow, which is what I did this morning, or a bike ride or an actual workout, it is absolutely vanity and sanity.
I saw that on your bio. It was CrossFit and coffee.
Yes.
You're one of those CrossFit nuts. I love HIIT training as well, but yeah, CrossFit it's a different breed.
It is. It's a little bit of a psycho cult, and I'm not afraid to admit that. These days, I am doing much more of the HIIT, the home workout, the get it in, get it outside while you can, kind of thing.
Are you in Boston as well? So Nicole made our introduction. Are you close to where Nicole is?
I'm outside the city, northwest of the city, so in proximity to. The rest of the world, yes, I'm close. But in Boston standards, no, I'm like in the woods.
Okay. But it is a place that is freezing and snowing and all of the nasty stuff.
Yes.
that we don't have in California.
Right. I know. I spoke to a group in Long Beach yesterday and they were like, how's it going? And I said, well, I'm probably significantly better than you right now. I said, there's a foot of snow outside. And half of them were like, oh, we haven't been outside yet. And it was like noon their time. Like,
yeah.
You live in California. How do you not live outside all the time?
Well, like 50 degrees here is considered very cold. So.
Oh, I know. Sorry.
Life's hard. So I was looking at Ovation, and Anthony, maybe you can pull up the site. And I have so many questions. I mean, I kind of wanted to gear our conversation today around, tips on improving your public speaking, but I'm very curious as to the background in creating this, because it says we are actors, we're the match for your professional development, and I assume that kind of is speaking from the voice coaching and presentation standpoint. Is that correct?
Yes. So everybody, thank you. The scroll is beautiful, by the way, what's happening on the screen. It's a delightful revisit.
Anthony's fingers. We pay a lot of money for those fingers.
He is talented. Don't let him go. That's Anthony. Call me if you need a change.
I'm not going to share your info with him. Don't worry.
Oh, okay.
I can't have you poaching my people, Kerri.
Oh, I'm sorry. If you said nothing was off limits. So, you opened that door. And here's the deal. Everybody, all the facilitators, everybody at Ovation, all the facilitators, coaches are professional actors. So that's my background. And I wanted, basically, when I started the company 9.5 years ago, I was like, all right, how can I can support myself and keep sane in between my acting gigs? And, oh, great, how else can I support my friends? Essentially. So everybody who trains for us, who coaches for us, are professional actors. Some are much more in the theater space. That's really where I came from, where I still am, we have some television and film actors as well. And I felt that there was, as I very clearly saw a long time ago, that in the business world, that they often, these very smart, wonderfully talented business professionals were lacking in an area that actors were really good at. And it was a comfort zone to us. And it's something that we studied through either conservatory training or just life on the stage or on the screen training, that business professionals kind of was like, oh, that's a thing, like self-awareness, social awareness, that's a thing, and how to effectively prep for presentations is also not a thing.
That's super interesting. I mean, from the standpoint of, I know a lot of business professionals that are very good at what they do. And it's almost like one of the traits that makes them good at what they do, because they have this ability to sort of, have you noticed that a lot of business professionals have the ability to block out everything else, to be able to stay on mission, to do what they like. So all the naysayers, everybody, they block everybody out because they're going to go down this path. And in turn, like, they're not very observational. Their emotional intelligence is not there, but that's also what makes them good at what they do. It put them on the path to be able to persist, right? To ignore everything else. But then they get to the place where they can't understand other people or speak in front of them.
Correct. That is true for many of them. Yeah, absolutely. And emotional intelligence is something that it was, actors like that. I'm not saying that all actors 100% across the board are emotionally intelligent, because I've met a few and dated a few of them that are not, but they are. What we study is, in fact, emotional intelligence with a different application that it's used for in business and in life. And that's all part of it. I mean, emotional intelligence is part of presentation skills as well. Well, that makes sense.
Can you walk me back through life as an actor? So like you said earlier, this was kind of this intermediary gap of paying the bills, which, mind you, is a genius move compared to the coffee shop actor-actress maneuver. But what was going on in acting that made you kind of, tell me about early on in acting.
Sure. So early on in acting started really early for me as a kid. And so I was working professionally really young, which was great and good exposure, and went to different schools for it. I grew up in Baltimore. I went to the Baltimore School for the Arts. I went to Syracuse for undergrad. So I got my musical theater degree, and I go off to New York in this big bad world of Broadway and off Broadway and regional theater and traveling. And it was fantastic. And I got called by a friend of mine from home. And he said, like, kind of panicked and was like, I'm at the Marriott Marquis, which is right in the center of Times Square, the hotel. And he said, I have to give a presentation for my bank. I have no idea where to stand on the stage here. Can you please come down and help me? You're an actor, you know where to stand. And I was like, okay, great. So I walked down.
You know where to stand.
That's what it's come down to. So I haul my cookies, as I like to say, down to the Marriott Marquis, and there's Michael in the middle of this like dark, cold ballroom at the Marriott Marquis, and he's like, I don't know what to do. What do I do? And I was like, okay, calm down. Let's find. Okay, here's the brightest part of the room. Stand there. Let's move. When you go to this section, let's start with a story. So essentially I was coaching him and not really knowing what I was doing, other than from sort of an aesthetic actor point of view of like, this is what makes sense. This is what's going to engage your audience. And he said, okay, thanks. I feel better. That was after some therapy moments. And he said, if you go hang with the guys in the green room, which was just like a conference room, I will take you out to dinner after I'm done with my presentation. I'm an actor. I love food, and free dinner is, right up there with many other important things in my life, like working.
It's one of the best perks of a set early on. I mean, that is craft services is like the best thing.
Right. anything. So I'm like, okay, great. I'll go hang out with these guys. And I go in this room with these other 6 bankers, and they're all waiting for their turn to go do their speech at this conference that's happening. And they're all doing these insane things in the green room, getting ready to go on. Like, one guy had his pages and he's flipping through them really fast, and he's like sputtering it, like saying it out loud super fast, and kind of like frenetic all over the room. And then another guy was sitting at the table, like staring up at the ceiling, kind of moaning, like sort of like and then and yet that is not the most shocking thing that happened that day. What was most shocking was there was a guy standing in the corner throwing up into a trash can. And
that seems like the most reasonable thing to be doing before a big presentation, compared to the groaning guy laying back.
Yeah. So, and nobody in the room seemed concerned except for me. So I go over and I'm like, sir, and doing like the back rub, that back rub thing you do for people. You're like, I'm like, sir, what are you okay? This guy's barfing in the trash can. And he turns around and he's like, yeah, no, don't, wipes his face, with the back of his hand, wipes his mouth with the back of his hand, and said, no, don't worry. I do this before every presentation.
Oh my gosh. What are they presenting? Like, what is this?
What? I don't know, financial important things. And all the other guys in the room are like, yeah, that's what he does before every presentation. And I couldn't get over it. So then I started asking them, I'm like, okay, so how did the other guys, I'm like, well, how did you get ready? How did you prepare your content? How did you practice? Which of course nobody practiced. And it blew my mind that they had no idea how really simple steps of like how to prepare when you have to talk out loud to other people. How do you practice that? How do you practice that efficiently? And that really was the first idea that said, oh, maybe actors have something helpful to tell business professionals. And so I went through many, many iterations of ideas to get to Ovation 9.5 years ago.
Interesting. So what would some of those simple steps be like in preparing? Because as you're saying it, I'm like, I wonder like if I do those things.
Well, the simplest thing is actually to say some of it out loud. So a lot of people will just either like think it through, write it down, or put together their deck and just, here in their brain, they're going, I'm going to talk about this and this and this and this. And you really need to say it out loud. And if you can't say all of it out loud, because some presentations are very long and we like have lives and can't get to it, then say at least the beginning and maybe the end, and then maybe some tricky transitions so that you just get a flow. So that's one simple thing everybody should be doing.
I like it. Give me more.
I got it. So see, does it make sense? Like, is it a story? Do you have a beginning, a middle, and an end? Does this take us from one point? One point. I'm on this very squeaky chair. I just realized. One point to another that, right? Are we beginning someplace and ending a very different place? Like, take us on a journey. Please, I don't care how dry your content is. I don't care how data heavy it is. You can create a story.
Yeah.
And you can tell us a story.
That really is the crux of like any good presentation of anything is storytelling. Don't you find, what do you do in cases where the story, the presentation, the content itself is just really bad? Because that is probably, I would imagine, the majority of the case.
Sometimes we're a little challenged. Yes. So we coach, and my company now coaches a ton of speakers at these gigantic conferences. And a lot of them are tech heavy, and a lot of we're coaching engineers who developed the tech that they're showing at the conference. And so, it is very difficult and gets very weedy and data heavy. So if if we can't tell a story from the content, which typically we can get, derive something, then at least let's start with an anecdote. How did you find yourself here? What is this in human terms?
Yeah.
What does this mean? If I'm in the audience, I'm in the audience and I can understand what you're saying and it's not too technical, then you've probably done a decent job to communicate it. And years ago, I worked with somebody at a big tech company, and it was very simply put, because that's my technical aptitude, it was two different programs that they were bringing together to work together. And after hours of coaching and trying to find, getting him confident and trying to find some sort of story in this data, what we discovered was he was going to open with a story about bringing his wife home from India. So he had an arranged marriage. He flew from the States to India, brought home his new wife, and how they had to learn how to work together cohesively. And now they had a very harmonious home with a child. And he said, and that's what I'm going to take you through with these two different software platforms and how they came together to work harmoniously. So finding something like that. Yeah.
And everybody's like, I want to hear more about the marriage.
Right. Always.
Well, that's fascinating. I'm thinking back to like my own experiences in public speaking, and it began with knocking on doors. So I used to be a Mormon missionary, but way back in another life when I was practicing in a spiritual religious person. Today I'm more so just on my own doing my own thing. But back then it was a very like out of body experience when the person next to me was like, okay, just I had landed in Vancouver, Canada. And the very first thing you're paired with like a trainer, and my trainer goes, okay, we have a tradition. The first thing that we do is go out and knock on doors. And I was like, I just got here. My bags are in the car. Can we do this later? And he's like, nope, we do this. This is what we do. And, I can still remember like all the door, like it was such a terrifying experience that it's embedded in my memory. But for me, this path of like learning how to speak and how to stand in front of someone came with like embracing the suck. Like there was just a whole bunch of suck. Like I'm going to mess up, I'm going to screw up every possible thing. I would imagine that you accelerate that process dramatically for people. It took me years to like practice and learn, but how do you help them to embrace the fact that, you're going to suck at this for a good while?
Yeah. Yes. And you definitely have to embrace the suck. And wouldn't it be great if everybody in life had the experience at cold calling, no matter what it was? I did it with payroll, right? I cold called payroll, Midtown Manhattan. You did it with your religion. Wouldn't that be a wonderful experience if everybody could do that, and everybody could work, and every American could work at a restaurant? I feel like the humans I
have done all three, and I would agree with you 100%.
Yes. Right. So yes, you have to embrace the suck for sure. And that's why getting with a trusted coach or a colleague, or going through a workshop experience, or miraculously using some of the tools we have available at Ovation you want to, just like actors do in rehearsal or when we're in school, you want to learn and experience in a safe environment. So that means that you can suck, that you can get up and try something outrageous or try something you never thought would work. And sometimes they don't work at all. And that is really bad. Don't ever do that again. Or you can try something on for size that maybe you thought, I've seen somebody do this. I'd like to try it. Does it work for me?
Yeah.
And so you kind of have to get into that laboratory feel. And
what is a safe environment in this area? What would you define that as?
It is a positive rehearsal or a laboratory environment, if you will. So
Gotcha.
coming in, get it, or a low stakes pitch, or if you're in front of people who are non-judgmental. So, and that can
that's
be
difficult. I don't know anybody that's non,
or appear non-judgmental.
Okay.
Well-intentioned people. True. So that could be synthetic, right? We put together a pretend panel of people for your big pitch, let's say, or a practice audience, or it could be we have a tool at Ovation that you can go on and practice on your own in front of no other humans, and it's going to spit out some performance metrics on the presentation skills side.
So no, that's really cool.
Something,
that would be a safe place for me. Is that the G Studio? Because I saw that on the website. Is that the AI driven software?
So that's part of Studio G. So Studio G is for anyone, everyone. It can be groups or individuals, and you get coaching, live one-on-one coaching. That's
Studio G that I saw on your website, right? This talk to the computer, get info. Like that to me seems safe. Like that is a non-judgmental space.
Yes, for sure. So that is our AI driven tool, Bravo. Look, it's behind me. If you're watching,
oh, that's so cool.
Pulled it up right behind me. Okay.
Look at you.
I'm full-time schmancy. So Studio G is this new program for anyone, everyone, groups, individuals can come in. They get coaching, one-on-one coaching, workshops, and access to Bravo. And so Bravo is this AI-driven platform. You can go on, you can practice totally safe on your own, record within the platform, or you can record and upload something from your phone, your device, whatever, and get these terrific metrics, performance metrics pumped out to you. And you'll see a transcript of what you said, how many filler words you've had, what's your pausing cadence. Okay. Yes.
I need to hook up to this thing. Can I get onto this platform after we're done here?
Yes, absolutely.
This sounds, one of the biggest, I started recording these tutorials, these videos, maybe 10 years ago ish. And at that point in my life, I'd already had quite a bit of experience standing in front of people, talking, teaching, doing things. But I remember when it was recorded and I was watching it back, how awful it was. Like when I actually saw it, I was like, this is horrific. And have I been doing this in front of people thinking that I'm actually good at this? But to be able to do that. So one of my pieces of advice to people was, if you're going to do a presentation, stand up in front of a camera, you have your phone, you can do anything, just record it and then watch it back. But you're saying with this, you can watch it back and the AI will actually tell you kind of all these different metrics on like filler words and like different pieces. What else is it going to tell me like about the presentation?
It's going to tell you how many words per minute you were speaking on average, which is
a big one.
A good piece of information for maybe people who are a little, I'm pointing to myself if you can't see me, who are a little fast on the tongue, if you will. I don't know. I've never said that phrase in my life before.
Fast on the tongue. I like it.
Fast on the tongue.
It applies in dating life, personal life, and in public speaking.
Yep. So many applications to that. And so words per minute. And watching yourself back is painful for, I don't want to say for everybody, cannot speak for the universe, but I'm saying for most people that I come in contact with, including myself, it is really difficult.
Yeah, it is.
And in any aspect. So the one thing about the platform, and then I'll give a tip about watching yourself back. If you
like. I want all the tips. So does our audience. Give us all the things.
The platform. So Bravo will show you your transcript, the words that you are speaking, and then it highlights your filler words. And my favorite part about the platform is that I can go on and be like, cookies. When did I talk about cookies? And then you click on the word cookies and it jumps your video to where you said that.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
So for those who have trouble watching themselves back on video, myself included, you can pick and choose. Maybe if you see a trouble spot, or I don't realize I use the word fluffer nutter as a filler word.
Fluffer nutter. Okay.
I'm going to some very weird places during this
We're going deep.
chat.
Yeah.
I know, I like it. Oh, so here's my tip. Ready? Here's my tip for watching yourself back. And as much as you possibly can when you're presenting, talking in the virtual environment, take down your self view. So meaning,
what does that mean?
Stop watching yourself when you're on camera live. It's going to get you to screen fatigue way faster. It's using too much brain power and it's really distracting. And very little other time in our real life do we look at ourselves while we're talking to other people. The only application I can think of that when I'm looking at the mirror at myself talking and I'm talking to somebody else is when I'm in the dressing room before a show, getting ready, putting on makeup. Other than that,
I see what you're saying.
We don't typically look at ourselves when we're communicating, and we're going to talk about judgmental. Like, you're going to be so judgy of yourself, and it's way worse for women. Unfortunately, we're much more judgmental. Like, what's going on with my hair and my face, and why did I decide to wear that bright orange shirt? Whatever it is. So in any of you just looked to see what I was wearing, didn't you? I saw it. So yeah.
No, this is I look to see what I'm wearing. This is me looking at you right now. And then I glance back at myself for a second.
All I did. So here's what I did so as much as you can, you want to turn off your self view. So most of the platforms that we're communicating on these days have an option so you're staying on camera, but you're hiding the self view. So actually right now for us, I covered myself. I couldn't figure out how to not hide the self view. So I covered it up with another application. So I can only see you. I don't need to see me.
That's a great tip. Now, from the phone, I guess you could do that very easily if you're recording yourself by just using the rear-facing cameras, right? So you're not actually pointing the front-facing camera at yourself. But this is the funny thing is I never even thought about that. And you're 100% right that seeing yourself like kind of takes you out of the moment and it really distracts you from what it is that you're saying. But on every single production set that I've ever done, so I do a lot of live presentations and broadcasts, and on every single production set, there is what they call a confidence monitor. Have you seen the confidence monitor?
I'm very, very familiar. Yes.
It is named the confidence monitor and it does exactly the opposite. Like, you look at the confidence monitor and you're just like, that's a piece of shit. Why is he talking up here right now? Like, why is he doing this? I can't believe that are you serious? Is this? And like, I don't think I've had anything that inspires imposter syndrome more than the confidence monitor.
Right. So I have with many production companies asked, can you take me off? I don't need to see me. Or can you cover it up with one, they always have those big like poster boards. Can you cover it up just for when I'm on?
What a fantastic tip.
They're like, who is that annoying woman?
It does exactly the opposite thing. Like, it does not make you confident at all. And especially because I'll be midpoint kind of like discussing something and I'll flip back just because I'll like want to know where am I standing in relation like to the room, or where's the camera at, or what camera's on me. And then you kind of lose your charisma, your presence, immediately because you're now focused on something else. So
so it's not helpful in the moment, right? Okay, good. Yeah. Good. So in the moment, block it, shut it off, whatever you need to do. And then have the courage to watch it back. Well, what did I do? How many times did I touch my face, or whatever you're trying to identify in that
Interesting. Moment. So run me back now. So 9 years ago, you create Ovation. Now at this point, you're acting. How was acting going? Like, this is to me, I have several friends that act, and I kind of say like, look, you're getting into a job of 1,000 no's to every one yes, but you only need the one yes type thing. So how was it going for you back then?
It was going fairly well. There were long streaks of me supporting myself on just acting. There were times that I needed that I had the restaurant job in between, and I realized that I just wanted something different and something that would infuse my soul, if you will, rather than my restaurant job, which I often referred to as soul sucking. It was
Restaurant jobs are soul sucking.
It was hard, and
Which restaurant did you work at? Can I ask?
Well, yeah, sure. So I spent a long time at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse in Midtown.
Oh, that's a good one.
51st. It was,
Okay.
you know what? It was, and it wasn't the restaurant, the staff, the owners, the managers, they were wonderful. And they were so giving to me. I think I worked there on and off for 6 years and
Wow.
I did bartending, hostessing. I did banquet sales for a while. I did everything. Lot there, and they were wonderful. The soul sucking part is the patrons, not all of them, certainly. Talk about study in emotional intelligence, and
I know that would be the best like observational job, like to just observe human behavior. Now I did Burger King, which is, you know, like a downscaled version of Ruth Chris. And then I stepped into Applebee's, which is really on par with Ruth Chris in every way.
Absolutely. Except we don't have flair. So
Applebee's was the worst. Like I felt like along the lines of your patrons, I felt like people came into Applebee's with the expectations that they were at Ruth Chris. I was like, it's a $12 steak, man. Like, what do you want? But
I would agree with that. Yeah.
But I would imagine being actually at Ruth Chris, you're dealing with people that, you know, they're spending good money being there, but they also have very high expectations for what they're getting.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, some were totally gracious. Some knew the way to the hostess's heart, like come in with the 20, you're going to get a table right away.
Yeah.
Others. And there was a lot, you know what, there's a lot of celebrity interaction, which was fascinating to me.
Mm-hmm.
That there were ginormous stars would come in, and typically the bigger, the more real, the more gracious. And it was kind of like the I don't want to say B level, but the not top tier in terms of magnitude of stardom that were a little
douchey.
Yeah.
Isn't it interesting how that works? It's always the ones that were in my life. I've noticed that the people that have reached a high level of success are generally the ones that are incredibly gracious. They are kind, they are giving, they want to give back, they want to provide. And the people that are like the self-aggrandizing D-listers of any industry, they're the ones that really are kind of douches. Like they talk about themselves in the third person. They it's every possible thing you can imagine. And you're like, man, I don't understand how this works.
Yes. But don't worry, Kerri handled it very well every single time.
So you're in this. I feel like at some point, when you were beginning Ovation, you're starting to work with people. Was there, like, did you feel like this was your thing? Like this is, because you sound like, as you speak, you sound like someone to me who's you're a specialist in human psychology. Like this is that a passion of yours? Is that part of like what drives you?
I don't know about psychology. Feels a little too medical for me, and I'm not in that at all. I would say that human interaction has always fascinated me. Always. And it was interesting. A couple years ago, somebody said, you're really socially observant, which I always thought I had been. And this was somebody who actually had a psychology degree and said, are you the youngest child? And I am the youngest of three. And they said, statistically, the youngest of many are very observant. Which bleeds into social awareness, because as a kid, and it's so true for me, I was dragged a million different places and had to wait for my siblings to get through their activities or sit and watch my parents doing something. And apparently you hone this skill of being really observant.
Yeah.
And it was really my freshman year of college was kind of an eye-opening experience, because I was away. I was out of Baltimore for the first time for an extended period of time, really on my own ish. And I I distinctly remember I was in a locker room in the theater department at Syracuse. And I was there with three other women, two of which who lived in my dorm. And the three of us who all lived in the same dorm were saying, oh yeah, tonight let's get together. We'll hang out in Deb's room. We'll be in pajamas. It'll be awesome. This is also very indicative of how much I was a partier in college. So we're going to hang out in jammies. It's going to be great. And I saw the third woman, Amy, sort of sigh out, and she walked to another part of the room, and we all emerged from the locker room to go into dance class. And as we were walking to dance class, I said, Amy, are you okay? You look upset. And she said, well, yeah, a little. How did you know that? And I said, well, because you kind of like huffed but not very overtly. And I saw you walk around, and I said, wait, let me guess. Is it because the three of us can get together in our pajamas and you live in a different dorm and that might be upsetting to you? And she was kind of gobsmacked and said, how did you know that? Yeah. And I didn't realize that actually was a gift, or I had a propensity for it, until she pointed out to me in that moment.
Interesting. So as you're going back and you're beginning because that to me, so much of public speaking and so much of, what it is to stand up in front of somebody or a group of people and storytell is this empathetic function. It's knowing what drives an audience, what's interesting, being self-aware enough to make sure that I'm presenting in a way that, that makes sense to them, that they can relate to. So as you're beginning Ovation, was it Ovation at the time, or were you just kind of working with people and coaching them?
I was with another organization prior, just doing presentation skills. And even before that, I had a sales job in payroll where I was cold calling. This was a very brief, dark time in my life.
Cold calling is always a dark time for everybody.
Cold calling. And right, exactly. So at that company, at the payroll company, I had started to realize, I'm like good at this communication thing. And other salespeople that had been there for years would come to me and say, I've noticed that you're really good at this. Can you help me? So I started coaching them a little, and I did some training there. And so when the opportunity came along to join a company, do some teaching and training and coaching there, I said, oh yeah, I can still do this. I was still on stage doing shows, and then I was ready. And I really felt strongly that I wanted to build a company that was only professional actors who were doing the facilitation and the training. And that's what I did.
Yeah, that's super interesting. So early on, you began Ovation 9 years ago. Did that experience you were at the payroll company. What were you guys cold calling about?
Payroll. So payroll. At the time it was Paychex, which is one of the big players in the payroll company. And I was selling their most basic payroll service. So at the time, I don't know how it runs now, but at the time it was for small business owners, maybe who had like one or two employees. And they would pick up the phone weekly and say, hi, I'm calling in my payroll. And then that was the service I was selling. And we would then grab their taxes, run their checks, or this newfangled fancy thing called direct deposit.
Now, is that before you went with your friend and you saw the people throwing up in the green room, or is that after in terms of timeline?
That was right around the same time.
Right around the same time. Okay. So mind you, my experience in cold calling was with debt consolidation. You know, the guys do you know the people that would call up and be like, so we have your information that you provide, which was a lie. Like they gave us this pitch that was like, you asked for this service, but nobody ever asked for it. But we would call and like, I can consolidate all your debts. So, so you are at that point thinking of getting a group of actresses together to do personal coaching. Did you find it like, was there an immediate group of people that just needed this service? Was it natural, or was it something that was, it doesn't sound natural to me. That's why I ask, is because when I think of nowhere along the way of me kind of going, hey, I need to get better at presentations, did I think about like hiring a acting coach type thing. So how was that beginning? How did that go?
It's interesting. And even still to this day, there are people that are like actors teaching presentation skills, helping me get better at speaking and communicating. What a brilliant idea. And then there are others that very quickly glaze over. And the wonderful thing is when I'm speaking to someone and I can in person, virtual, whatever, I can see it happen. If they glaze over or just their demeanor or how they ask me the next question changes, immediately I know, okay, I'm not their cup of tea, right? This is not happening.
Do they just think that it's not possible for an actor to teach presentation skills? What is their mindset?
Some of the questions that I've gotten from those non-enthusiasts are things like, do the actors have a college education? Are they smart enough to talk to my business professionals? I think there's a little bit of a thing that actors aren't very smart.
Ew,
there
okay.
could be a predisposition to that.
Interesting.
Or I did get asked once, what costumes do you guys show up in?
Wow.
And I really
people are this condescending with the idea.
Oh, I mean, look, these are far and few between, but they're very memorable.
Sure.
So that, that's the stuff. So I really, really wanted to just give them the rundown of every costume in like the original off-Broadway version of Godspell. But so that's like overalls and clown costumes and Superman t-shirts, but I didn't. And so yes, sometimes I think there is an idea that actors are flighty or dumb or weird, or maybe that's just stuff from my childhood. I don't know. And so not everybody's into it. There's also this weird thing that sometimes it hasn't come up in a while. I have come across people say, oh, so you teach acting for business professionals. And I try to explain that, no, we teach some techniques that actors use all the time and give it a business application. And they'll say, but isn't acting just lying? And then they like to say, like, are you acting now? That's always
interesting. So are you acting now?
Maybe. Maybe. The thing about acting is that it is all about the truth. It is all about giving truth to the text, to our past experience, to whatever it is that we're relaying. And so, I've had people say, oh, you're just teaching the art of BSing. And that's not what it is. It's simply finding a way to convey our truth, our content, the message we want to get out in a way that somebody else is going to hear it.
Yeah.
And so I have early, and especially early on in the days when it was only a couple of us, I hadn't been around very long. We weren't known in the industry. People would, I get some of that. I get less of that now, which is nice.
Yeah. It's interesting because I mean, in any line of business, I feel like you have to constantly fight against misconceptions. We get that constantly as well. Like, I mean, how many people think that taking a good photograph is about a camera? Like, oh, you must have a really nice, like that's literally the only thing people say is,
I'm sure.
You take a nice picture. Oh, you have a nice camera. And you're like, yeah, I do have a nice camera. Stop. But in other areas where people actually have some familiarity with, they don't do the same thing. Like people say those things I would imagine about, presentation and voice coaching and all this kind of stuff because they have no understanding of what it actually is. But if you were walking into Gordon Ramsay's kitchen and he cooks you an amazing, dish, you're not going to be like, Gordon, you must have really incredible, like knives and like your pots must be incredible. And oh my gosh, like this is, But the only reason they don't do that is because they have some idea of what it is to cook at home, whereas most people have no idea what it is to correctly present or to stand in front of people or take a photograph. So as you're launching, I'm very curious, like, how did you go about getting these first clients, like 9 years ago?
The one of the very first significant clients that we got was through I had been with this other company doing some presentation training. And when I was ready to leave and I took the big leap. That just felt weird to say. I had some relationships from that previous company. And so somebody called and said, oh, so-and-so at big tech company, blah, blah, blah.
That you will not name.
I might. We'll see how the story goes. They are looking for they're sick. They've got this big conference coming up. They're sick of they're over their speaker coach. They're looking for something new and fresh. And I know that you're on your own and doing something different. And I said, great. I literally, like, days after I had said, I'm leaving this company, I'm starting my own. Okay, great. We filed for the LLC, right? We're good. So the person from Microsoft called and said, oh, I got your name from so-and-so.
Yeah, how would you not name drop that? It's like, that is like,
look, build up. Look, I'm a good storyteller. It's build up of anticipation. I got you on the edge of your seat.
You did.
So this woman from Microsoft calls and she says, oh, I got your name from so-and-so. I'd like to talk to you about your speaker coaching. Can you meet up? And it happened to be that my husband and dog and I are on our way to go to vacation in Maine. I'm in the car and I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Let's meet up next week. I'm headed on vacation. I'll be back. She said, wonderful. In the meantime, do you have a website? I had absolutely nothing. I literally had left this company and said, I'm going to start my own. We had nothing. And I said, yes, we have a website. It's under construction right now. It'll be back up next week. And she said, well, what is it? And I was like, it's getovation.com. I totally wasn't that at the time, but let's pretend it was getovation.com because that's my real website now. So I hang up and my husband, who is fantastic software developer background, I said, you have to pull over. You have to put up a website that says Ovation under construction. So we pulled over. I take the dog for we're at a picnic bench at some, rest stop. He literally just puts up a website that's like under construction with like a cartoon guy, like doing this, digging and then throwing it over his shoulder. And that was it. And then 2 days, like 2 weeks later, I was in Fargo, North Dakota, pitching this conference for Microsoft. And I'm happy to report, have been a client for 9.5 years.
That's amazing. Okay. So now I love that because I feel like every entrepreneurial story, and they don't often get, I don't know that they get told enough, but we tend to look at where you are 10 years later down this road, or 9 years. And we kind of go, oh, well, it's obvious. Like, her success was dialed in, and you look at this company that you have now and everything that you have now. But most of these stories, every time we drill back, begins with some level of like, just get something up and start, like just go. And I love that you're going on vacation and stopping. What an incredibly supportive husband. Let's give him a shout out right now.
No, he's not bad.
He's not bad. So, okay. So the website launches and Microsoft is one of your first clients, a client today. I mean, did you feel like did you still act at the time, or were you all in on this? Was it like, okay, this is what I want to do?
I was acting. I'm still acting. Of course, acting right now is a little bit on hold, and for most theater professionals. So I have done, my last show was 2 years ago. So
crazy. Which show?
I did thank you for asking. I did a production of Catch Me If You Can.
No way.
I was the mom because that's who I am now. And I did a one-woman play called I Love, I Lost, I Made Spaghetti. And it's based on the book I Love, I Lost, I Made Spaghetti by Julia Malucci. And it is a woman in her 40s talking about love and lost and horrible boyfriends. And all the while during the play, I'm on stage making a 4-course meal for 8 people who pay extra. And
this is awesome.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Anthony. Look, I've got a job if you're available. Just saying, still.
He's taken.
So I have cooked. Cooking is a fun passion, just home cook for me. And yet I have now cooked professionally twice because I did a production of it in Boston and I did a production of it in Colorado.
This is incredible. So acting for you is still a passion and a part of your life then?
Absolutely. Yes. And for all my relatives who may be listening, I would like to tell you that a major pet peeve of mine is when you say, this is Kerri. She used to be an actress.
Isn't it? We have this tendency, again, going back into human psychology, but there's this need to like put everybody in a bucket. Like,
oh, yes.
Like, what do you do? Well, I only do one thing. Like, that's who I am.
You use really good cameras, apparently.
Yes.
That's what you use.
The only thing I know how to do is take a picture. And Kerri used to be an actress.
I used to be an actress. Yes. Well,
now you are an actress and a CEO of an amazing company. So what is it like now today at Ovation?
Today, we have 25 people. They're not all full-time. We've got our core full-time staff, and then we have an amazing, fabulous bench of professional actor trainers at the ready to help you and your organization. And we have people all over North America. We have bilingual trainers, and we are cranking along. Right now, we're exclusively delivering in the virtual environment. Prior to last year, it was 95 in person, 5% virtual, and now we're, of course, 100% virtual. We will return to in-person one day soon.
Yeah, that had to be a wild pivot for you guys to switch everything over.
So, well, luckily, infrastructure-wise of the company, we've always been a virtual company. I've never had a physical space. So what we didn't have to do was figure out like, oh no, how do we meet virtually? How do we get this? We always did that. That was totally fine. Mm-hmm. We have found in the past year that people are consuming training differently. So we did have to move some stuff around and I often talk about it that we did a restaging versus a pivot, because a pivot in dance is right. You're facing one way and you pivot and you go the other way. And we just restaged it. So in the theater, you go, like, director may come in or choreographer may say, you know what, we need to restage this to simply focus the audience's attention on something different. And that's really what we did. And what the past year allowed me to do, because I wasn't on the road almost every week as I was before, is build Studio G. And I always wanted something that was for the individual and was a complete, viable, engaging virtual training situation. And so that was good about a global pandemic.
One of the few things. How did you go about, so you built Studio G from the ground up then?
Yes.
I'm curious how you went about creating it, finding the engineers, the conceptualization down to actually getting this thing into a product.
It started, I would say, I have something on my shelf. That's why I'm looking over there. In May, so way back in May, I happened to come across a gentleman who was offering this course on how to build a membership, how to build a subscription. And I've always wanted to do it. I had no idea. I didn't understand the business application. Like, I have Netflix, like that was it. I didn't understand the subscription model at all or how to build it for my business. So I ended up taking this guy's course and learning a lot about it, getting introduced to some other people who helped create what is now Studio G and creating what the participant journey looks like, creating all the products. And the Bravo tool, the AI tool, is developers who created a product called Tiger Talk. And they found us a couple, 4 or 5 months ago. And I was like, oh, this is what I've been looking for. This is so exciting. Awesome. And we jumped in a beta with them. We're now co-branding it for us. And and it's exciting because we're part of their evolution and they're part of ours.
Yeah, that's amazing. So having had this much experience in this now, I'm very curious if I were to ask you, what are your top 5 or top 10 most frequent kind of presentation mistakes? What would that be?
You
don't have to listen to every number.
I have a lot of them.
Yes, I'm very curious. I want to see how many boxes I can tick off.
Oh, or things that, yes. Okay. So things that you mean, I'm guessing you mean things that I see out in the world.
Yes.
Versus my personal top 10 presentation mistakes, because I've got a lot of them.
Either way, maybe they coincide at some point.
Okay. So for virtual, I'm going to focus on virtual right now, because that's where we are.
Yeah.
The virtual, I would say, is the lack of eye contact. Because me looking at this camera, because you're kind of over here.
Yeah, I'm not looking at the camera right now. This is the camera.
This is really hard and really weird, because what I want to do is have a conversation with you. Right. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
I want to talk to you right here.
Oh my goodness, you've already nailed one of mine.
Oh, good. So okay. I want you, the audience, to feel like I'm looking at you, like I'm talking to them. And if I'm sort of looking off actually at you, it's not the same. It's not the level of engagement. So I would say in the virtual environment, number 1 is eye contact.
Yeah.
And virtual, second thing is lighting. Because that's really the number 1 reason why people don't look good in the virtual environment. It's super simple. You don't need, look, I have professional lighting, the photography, awesome lighting. However, you don't need that. You can use natural lighting. You can use lamps. You can grab things from around your home. And as long as it's behind the camera lens, you're going to look better. You're going to look brighter and people can see you. And please do not stand or sit in front of a window that is open, because that glare is deadly. You look like, I talked to a guy yesterday who was like, just shadow. He was a shadow of himself. I was like, this is weird.
It makes a huge difference, especially on the lighting point. You have wonderful catch lights in your eyes. And that's something that I bring up a lot, which is it makes your eyes if you have light coming into the eye, you look alive when the light's coming in the eye, or you look dead if it's all shadow, like if there's no catch light. That's a huge thing.
Now I'm looking at myself. Now I'm looking at my eyes. Thank you.
Now I'm looking at the camera the whole time.
Now you're paranoid. So it's an art, because you got to practice. Like I can see you out of my periphery. And so it's weird, right?
It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right.
I know. No, I know it doesn't feel right for you, but it feels right for them.
Feels right for them. Okay, I'm gonna practice this throughout the rest of these tips right now.
Yes.
Hit
me. Here's one that isn't. Well, I guess it's a top 10. So every Tuesday on LinkedIn and Facebook, whatever your choice is, I do these Tip Tuesdays live. So I come on, I talk like 10, 12 minutes about things, right? Tips on professional presence and presentation skills. And we've been doing them now, 4 or 5 months. And I recently went back and I looked at what are the views, like what are the ones, how many people are watching, what's getting the top hits. And the one that was like astronomically higher than any other of the tip videos, and I'm talking like this like the Tom Brady of videos here. And that is the only time I'll ever make a sports reference, by the way, is it was the video of how not to use filler words.
Oh.
I was blown away because I spend all this time talking about many, many different things, right? Engagement and storytelling and nerves. And then the one that I think is the sort of easiest to conquer, but I guess the most rampant, is this idea of how to get rid of your filler words.
Are there specific techniques?
There is a specific technique that we teach, which is pausing. So first you have to identify it. And so that goes back to let's videotape ourselves and figure out what our fillers are. And or use Bravo, because it'll help identify those for you. And then what you don't want to do is say, I'm just going to stop using filler words, because that's a fail right there. It is so hard to just simply stop doing something. What you want to do is replace it with something else. And the easiest, best thing to replace it with is a pause, or some people think of it as a breath.
Yeah.
Pause, breathe, and get that into your muscle memory versus or whatever you're doing. And then you get to a point where you don't have to think about it as much.
It's so easy to say. This is why you need tools to actually show you what's going on. Because I find that I've worked on filler words for a long time, and I thought that I didn't use them nearly as much. And then in watching things back today, I still use them, like not as much as previously, but I still do it. So yeah, you do need tools to point those things out for sure. So going into now, because so much of presenting is not just the way that you speak, the content itself. And this is why, like, one of my big things is like, when you teach something as broad as presenting, I'm going to stop looking at you. Okay. When you're teaching something as broad as like how to present, there are so many nuances to it, like from the content itself to body language, to understanding your audience, to figuring out how to be relatable, how to carry charisma. That's why I ask for tips, because I'm like, you could give tips all day long and you can only scratch the surface of like what you actually do. So in person now, standing in front of you, presenting, what are some of the most common mistakes that you're seeing?
Okay. I'm going to get up for this. How about that?
Oh, yes.
Cool with that. I'm also going to turn off my little heater I had because it's getting warm up in here.
Roasty toasty.
Yes. All right. So let me just make sure. Okay.
Do you have a standing desk? How are you the same height? I don't understand what just happened right now.
Okay. I will tell you how I am the same height, because I searched long and hard on Facebook Marketplace, which, by the way, you can get anything on that thing. We got a Peloton. We got an almost brand new Peloton on Facebook Marketplace.
I love your energy, my friend.
Everybody was sold out of I have a 7-year-old daughter. Everybody was sold out of what the hell? Trampolines over the summer.
Yeah.
Facebook Marketplace. Okay. So I found this awesome stool that's like 7 feet tall. So yeah, so you're sitting at standing height. I'm sitting at standing height. Yes. Because there are, for example, this conversation is, while delightful, a little on the long side. So
noted.
That sounded really insulting. And I just
only a little bit.
So it's the perfect time to, if I'm having a nice long conversation rather than presenting or pitching for a couple few minutes, I like to bring out my stool. Okay.
Like
so yes, now I'm
tip here.
Thank you.
And with that subtle hint, we'll close after this section.
And with that, we'll end it. No, I'm having a good time. Okay. So standing, here's some really annoying things that I see when people are standing. There's a lot of this.
Yeah.
So for those listeners, I'm rocking back and forth like fast metronome. And this could be a comfort thing, right? If somebody's really nervous or they're trying to get out their nervous energy. So what we like to teach is something called neutral position, which is standing comfortably on both feet. Knees are a little soft, not locked, because you're asking to faint. And that it's not jail position. It's just a position that we comfortably move through.
Mm-hmm.
If rocking is a big issue for you, if you see that when you watch yourself back, then simply take a pen and throw it down on the floor and put it under the ball of one of your feet. And so you'll feel that it's just a nice reminder of like, oh, right, both my feet are on the floor.
Yeah.
And I can feel a flat one and I can feel the pen one, and it can help with the rocking.
I love it.
And we'll work a lot on body language and what to do with my hands. That's a big thing for people as well, especially as we start to build our self-awareness.
Yeah.
So I would say for me, just personally, if the thing that really bothers me is if somebody is holding something and they're not going to use it, because all I'm going to do is just stare at it and wonder how long.
Like my pen?
No, honestly, this is the first moment I've noticed that pen. So some people say, I just want to hold something because I feel less nervous. So here I've got this nice water bottle from one of my clients, Laserfish. And so you get a lot of good swag in this business.
I know.
So all the conferences, it's awesome. So people are holding something. And if you are holding this water bottle the entire time and not demoing the water bottle or not quickly taking a drink and then putting it down, all anybody's going to do is stare at this water bottle.
Yeah.
It's like in a show, if people are tap dancing and like a pear falls off the buffet and it's on the floor, all anybody's doing is watching the pear to see when somebody's going to tap dance on it. Pick up the pear, put it down, get it out.
I love it. Well, Kerri, I appreciate the time that you've taken to talk through your story and everything that you guys do at Ovation. It's really cool. And for our audience that is interested in coaching and improving your presentation skills, we're going to link up everything in the description of the video as well as in the podcast, so you guys can check out Ovation. I'm really looking forward to actually checking out that software product and your coaching services. So I wish I'd actually give it a shot before we hopped on, but I'm going to give it a shot after.
All right. Excellent. Are we ending because I said it was long?
We are ending because you said it was. I didn't know if that was a subtle jab. Was that a subtle jab?
No, I am way more direct than that. Not at all.
You're way more direct.
This was delightful. Thank you.
No. I just didn't want to take up too much more of your time. And we're trying to, I felt like you did a great job of talking through all those different pieces about public speaking and different tips and tricks and things like that. So it was a nice natural piece there to end with. Yeah.
Good.
And it came after your subtle jab, which is great.
Okay, great. And we're done. Yeah. I helped set it up for you. I hope. Well, wonderful.
Kerri, it was awesome meeting you.
Very nice to meet you. And I am happy to share Bravo with you. If you would like to check it out, just let me know.
I actually would. It would be really fun to check it out. So if you're down, that'd be really cool.
I am totally down. I'll send you the login stuff and go in, try it out. I'd love we're still building and betaing. So come on in, check it out. Let me know your feedback.
I love it. Thanks, Kerri. It's great meeting you.
You know what you can do? You're very well. It's very nice to meet you too. You could even upload like a snippet of this. Just take, a couple minutes of this and upload it and see what it says.
Oh, that's rad. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it a shot.
When shall I see this out in the big bad world of podcasts?
This will probably be within the month. So basically we're moving over and transitioning into like a broad audience platform. And to smoothly transition, we're kind of taking along our creative audience with us because we have a significant size in that side. And then we're building in like every other episode basically is something that's applicable to running a business, to, being a creative entrepreneur, to all these different things, but not necessarily the specific, like taking a photograph, so it's more, so like this kind of conversation. So we're kind of trying to bring our audience along and tell them there's a lot more that you guys need to be learning about.
Awesome. Well, this was delightful. Thank you.
It was great meeting you. I hope to someday, if you're ever out in California, let's do one in person.
Okay, deal.
Do you ever travel out here?
I do. I'm supposed to be, I always speak at this same conference in Long Beach every year at this time. So, but I am probably there once or twice a year. Yep.
Okay. We are really close to Long Beach. So.
Oh, are you? Okay.
Yes. So after we finish, I will send you my personal info. So if you're ever in the area, let's do a live episode.
Okay. I'm down with that. Thank you.
All right. Okay, Kerri. Great meeting you. See ya.
Bye, Anthony. Call me. Okay. Bye. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.